After giving more than 30 talk show interviews in Europe, Norbert Heuser, a German entrepreneur, is now here on the Tan Talk Radio Network with his own show, Improve Your Life, covering many total different subjects and introducing many people from all walks of life. And now, here's Norbert Heuser.
Thanks a lot for tuning in again tonight. 6 o'clock, every Monday evening, 6 to 7, my show, Improve Your Life. And today I have a special guest we will talk to in a few minutes. And I'm very excited about this guest here. As I always try to have interesting characters on the show, which have something to offer. Now, before we start the show itself with the guest, I'd like to update you. Last week, we had a question. You know, every week I have this question, the quote, and I was asking the people who said it. And if you guess who said it, you can win one of my fantastic drinking cups, state-of-the-art, not sweating. You can't have your fingers cold when it's cold inside. You can't burn your fingers when you put hot inside. So hot and cold drinks, and you can win this cup, or you can order it on my website, whatever you wish. So, but nobody did win last week's puzzle there. The sentence was, when the power of love overcomes the love of power, the world will know peace. Again, when the power of love overcomes the love of power, the world will know peace. And I asked you, who said that? Yes, hey Joe, you remember, hopefully or not, Jimi Hendrix. So Jimi Hendrix, in fact, was quoted with the sentence, when the power of love overcomes the love of power, the world will know peace. How right he was. And he said that before 1970, before he died in 1970. People, this is 50 years ago. My God, 50 years ago. All right, here I have a quote of a man today, question, who is very alive, a very interesting fellow. And the interesting thing is I just came across this gentleman this morning through some unusual circumstances and connections. We will talk about this maybe in another show later on. So this gentleman's quote is, the external world is a canvas where you paint with the colors of your soul. I think this is very deep. Let me say it again. The external world is a canvas where you paint with the colors of your soul. Touchy, beautiful. I love it. So this is why I immediately said I'll put it tonight on the show. When you guess who said that, please go to my website, improveyourlife.us. Send me an email, tell me who it is, and you have the chance to win one of my drinking cups or bottles. Again, you can find them on my website, improveyourlife.us. Go on the promo, and you find those guys, which, by the way, I'm selling with a non-profit price as a promo item. So what else do we have to say before we start? Well, every week I have a book of the week or book of the day. And I want to promote the book. And I don't sell books, don't get me wrong, I don't sell books. Though on my website is a button called Books. On this button, Books, I just recommend books I came across, I read, and I found interesting. So interesting that I say to my fellow man, hey, check this book out. It's very special, it's different. So the book of this week is quite old. It's quite old. I don't even know. I have to look it up. 40 years or more, 50. And the book is called Mutant Message Down Under. Mutant Message Down Under. And I found it extremely interesting. And I must say, this is the only book in my life which I read twice within 2 weeks. I usually was sitting in my bathtub and having a big pot of tea and some candles, and I would read a book for an hour or two. And when I read this book, I was so fascinated by the book that I couldn't stop reading. And while I was reading the book, I said to myself, oh, geez, you're reading too fast. There's too much in it. You have to read it again. So I finished it, and 2 weeks later, I read it again. I give you the quick synopsis of the book. It doesn't take anything away from you reading the book, but it should motivate you to read the book. So it's a true story of an American doctor lady who traveled to Australia, and she came across the minorities of Aborigines, the Native Australian people, and who live a bit in a ghetto situation with a lot of alcohol and drugs in some cities. And she tried to motivate these young guys to do something. And they discussed, and she says, look, the people need a mosquito net window frame in front of their windows. Why don't you manufacture this and offer it to people? So the guys jumped on it and became very successful. They sold a lot of them. People loved it. And suddenly she gets an invitation from a native tribe, some 2,000-3,000 miles away, inviting her. And she thinks, well, they're inviting me, give me a trophy, a handshake for what I have done for these guys, right? So she travels down there. And when she arrives, they take their clothes and burn her clothes, burn her credit cards and her gold and jewelry and diamonds and silver, everything. And they take her as a trophy for a 3-month walk around in the Australian deserts. That's the storyline of the book. That comes in the first pages. So later on, she discovers that the tribe of the leader of the tribe and herself may have met before in a previous life, and they find that they bring her to a cage in which they have painted the history of mankind over the last 50,000 years. And later on in the book, and she says so, she disguises where they go because she doesn't want people to find this place. And the essence of the book is the conversations between her and the people of the tribe walking for these many months through the deserts, and the exchange of ideas of each civilization, what they think and what life is all about. So that's the essence of the book. But it's so interesting. You got to read it. All right. That was the book of the week. I got lost here. I got a bit carried away, but I loved it. Without further ado, let me introduce you to a gentleman who is on the show tonight, and his name is Paul Levin. I met Paul when he visited many years ago, I guess it's 7-8 years ago, maybe, or whatever. He visited, he was a participant of one of my seminars. And we stayed in distant contact, and I got loads of emails from him, very interesting emails. And the other day I decided to meet with him. We went in a coffee shop and we met and talked. And I said, look, don't you like to come to my show? Now, Paul is an author, speaker, and what he calls an emotional breakthrough mentor. He's a certified hypnotist. He's a practitioner specializing in belief systems. Paul believes that we are all hurting from childhood and other traumas, or traumas, either way. When the pain of those traumas are resolved, you are empowered to manifest the life you want. So that is his basic philosophy. And tonight we're going to talk about his philosophy and how he came about it and what does he do and offer with his philosophy. Here is Paul Levin.
Hi, Norbert. Thank you for having me on the show.
Thank you for coming to the show tonight. Thank you very much. So, Paul, you wrote a book which has a very unusual title. Your life sucks. No more.
Exactly.
The ultimate guide to manifesting your perfect life. Now, that's a tough title. That's, a big claim. Now, did you go through a life which sucked?
I did, Norbert. My most of my life, I would have said, sucked. Yes, for various reasons, and I have photographic evidence going all the way back to 5 years old. Actually, maybe somebody in your audience has their kindergarten class picture, and when you look at a kindergarten class picture, and you look at the faces of those children. It doesn't take a genius to figure out which children are happy and which children are not. And you could look at my kindergarten class picture and tell that child, that little boy, was not happy. And life went on like that. So life sucked until I got to about my 50s when things changed.
So from kindergarten, 5 years old, it took you 45 years to come to a crossroad.
Yeah, a little bit closer to 50 years. And exactly, to come to a point of deciding that enough was enough.
And I mean, was that something overnight you said enough is enough? How did that come about? I mean, such a dramatic change.
Sure. Actually, it was in a moment. One particular evening, I was sitting in my office and thinking about how my life sucks so much and how this had gone wrong and that went wrong and all of that. And I asked myself the question, I said, why does life have to suck so much? And I don't know if I'd asked it before, but this time I'm sitting in my office and I got an answer to that question. And it was loud and it was audible. It was like a voice yelling it in my ear. And the answer was simple. It doesn't have to. So I made a decision in that moment that if life doesn't have to suck, then I would recreate my life completely. And this time I'd be happy. And let's see, 8 years later, that's what happened.
So it took you from age of 50, another 8 years to turn your life around.
Yes. And actually, the first 5 of those, nothing happened. I did absolutely nothing with that decision for the first 5 years.
So you made a decision, I have to change my life, that it stopped sucking. But you made that decision, but you didn't do any actions, any actions which would change that condition.
Exactly. And so nothing changed, of course. However, the decision alone created the path. It actually began the process of change. Okay.
So you put yourself on a trail which had no immediate change, but eventually it would end up on that goal in that new train station.
Exactly. And the reason that nothing had happened for the first 5 years is because my environment hadn't changed. And that's one of the principles I teach, is that environment is stronger than willpower. So the first thing that needed to change for me was my environment.
And environment means workplace, marriage, children, family,
well,
hobby,
in this
friends.
case, actually all of it. For me, all of it. But in this case, initially, it was, I was still in the big house that I had with the kids and the rabbit and the dog and the swimming pool and the woman who became my ex-wife. And all of that had to change. Fast forward 5 years, the kids went on their own, went on their way. My wife and I.
They were old enough, I take it.
Exactly. At that point, they were old enough, right? And the judge's gavel had come down and said, you're divorced. And so that had changed. And so now I was, 5 years, later, I'm sitting in a little house in a teeny little town, just me and the dog. So that's a totally different environment.
All right. And you felt better at that moment?
Well, what happened in that environment is I remembered the decision. And actually, it's kind of a little funny story because the dog, her name was Foxy, and I loved her. She's no longer with us, and I loved her dearly back then. And she was my best friend. And I turned to Foxy. Her name was Foxy. And I turned to Foxy. I said, Foxy, do you remember that decision we made like 5 years ago? And she looked up at me and said, of course I do, Dad. Right? Foxy didn't speak, right? But those eyes, they speak. And I go, well, Foxy, what are we going to do about it? Right? What are we going to do about it? It's 5 years ago we made this decision. And Foxy looked at me with this look that said, what are you going to do about it? And that's when I knew I had to start taking some action.
So what action did you take then? I mean, you pulled them out of thin air?
Well, there you are. You're sitting there. Okay, I'm going to recreate a life, right? That's the decision, that I'm going to recreate my life from scratch. How do you do that? And I had no clue how to do that back then. Now I do. Now I teach it. But back then, I had two things to hold on to. One was a Bible verse, and I apologize for King James Version. Be ye transformed. And that's what I wanted. I wanted to be transformed, right? What's a transformation? It's a radical change. I wanted to be transformed. So be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. Well, again, I didn't know how to renew a mind back then. Today I do. So the other thing I had is that 10 years prior to this moment, so 5 years before the decision, I had seen the movie The Secret. And they talked about manifestation, the creating of the reality that you want. And I wanted to learn how to do that. But again, I didn't know how to do that either. So I figured I would go take a class. I just felt that, renewing of your mind sounds like education. Here I am. I'm now 57, and I'm going to go take a class, a college class. And it was awesome. It was wonderful. I took anatomy and physiology, and anybody who knows anything about that subject, that's not an easy class. But it was awesome. I had the best time. I got an A, right? And this was the beginning of me stepping out of my comfort zone. So I know this is a topic that you like to speak about, Norbert.
Well, you and I, we have a lot in common. One thing we have in common, I'm writing a book. I'm writing two books, actually. One book is going to be titled The Only Reason You Can Become Sick. And the second book I'm working on is called The Basics of Life. And a lot of things you're talking about are in my book as well, which is good.
Awesome. So yeah, stepping out of our comfort zone. Basically, the principle is this. Everything you want in life that you don't have right now is on the outside of your comfort zone.
Exactly.
So to get it.
Yeah, I'm saying in my book, the real life starts beyond the comfort zone.
Exactly. So to have all those things that we want, we need to step out of our comfort zone. And me at 57, taking a college class was definitely that. But then what happened is at the end of the anatomy and physiology class was another subject I was interested in. But this time I couldn't take a college class. Now I had to get on an airplane and fly 2/3 of the way across the country and pay to go to this workshop.
So how did you find the workshop? I mean, how did the workshop?
Online, Google search. Okay. I was just searching the internet on that topic.
Okay.
And, reading articles and whatnot. It's like, a workshop. But to go to a workshop and pay to learn something, at that point in my life, I'd never done that before. So again, stepping out of my comfort zone, right? Flying off to, it was Las Vegas, and then go to this workshop. It was awesome. It was fantastic. It was an amazing weekend. And when I came back, notice you take a step, and then the universe does something. So here I fly off to Vegas. I have this wonderful time. I come back, and there in the pile of mail that accumulates while you're away, right? Here's this pile of mail that accumulated over the 5 days or so, or 6 days that I was gone. And there's a postcard. And the postcard's talking about another workshop. Mind you, I just gone to the first workshop I'd probably ever gone to in my life.
And that was the postcard was from a different company or the same company?
Totally different company, totally unrelated. Okay. I don't know why this postcard showed up in my mail. I have no clue how I got on some list, right?
Well, nothing happens by accident.
Yeah, I know. There are no accidents.
Even accidents don't happen by accident.
Precisely. Exactly true. I go off to Vegas. I take that big step. And now there's this postcard in my mail. Right? You see the connection, people? Right? So what's the postcard telling me? It's a free workshop. Free. They got my attention right off the bat.
Because you're Jewish.
Well, yeah, air's free. That's what, right? Why do Jews have big noses?
Something is free, we're going to take it, no matter. Okay.
With a name like Levin, So, so it's a free workshop, and it's right, it's like one town over. So it's like, less than a half an hour drive. And I'm going to go. I have to go. I read the language, the verbiage in the postcards, just like the guy was using in Vegas. Totally different subject. So I have to go. And when I go, it's I'm sitting there in the audience and I'm loving it. I'm just soaking it up. It's great stuff they're teaching us. And of course, they're selling other workshops. And I'm not buying any, and that's okay. Except we get to the third day, the last day of the workshop.
So the 3 days were officially free charge.
Yeah, totally no cost whatsoever for 3 days. Okay. And it's easily, this, by the way, I need to tell you what this was. This was T. Harv Eker, E-K-E-R. The gentleman's name is T. Harv Eker. It was his Millionaire Mind Intensive program. And he actually doesn't put them on anymore. He's kind of sold them to another company. So they're still out there as the Millionaire Mind Intensive. Amazing, amazing workshop. For free, easily worth, or it used to be for free, easily worth $10,000. Easily. So there I am. It's the third day. It's Sunday afternoon. And they're selling the big package.
Now here comes.
Right? It's called Quantum Leap. It's 2 years worth of other programs, other workshops. Not necessarily in this town. I'm going to have to fly across the country back and forth to go to these workshops. 2 years worth of workshops for $10,000.
So $10,000, and you have over the next 2 years several workshops, which include in the price, which you can attend wherever they are.
Yes, however, $10,000. I've never spent that kind of money on anything other than a house or a car.
And your wife. And your wife.
Well, yeah, okay, a ring or something.
Well, let's
actually, the ring wasn't even that. Was anywhere near 10 grand? The ring, Again, don't forget that was 1970. All right, so still, that was a whole lot of money. I even had to call up the credit card company and tell them it was okay, that I was actually making a purchase, because they thought it was fraud. But I bought this package of courses, and when you go to every one of these workshops, they're selling more.
Hold on a second. Let's back up for a second. You see, to my philosophy, or my learnings in life, people spend money only if they think what they're getting for the money is more worth than the money they spend.
Yes, and you know what, though? Mine was a little bit different. For me, I was sitting there just knowing. As to the same degree that I know who I am, that I know I'm sitting in a chair right now, I knew I had to take that program. I had to purchase that quantum.
Yeah, because you knew, or you thought, you felt, whatever, that the money spent is less value than what you get for it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So what was purchased as 2 years turned into 3, and the original package of 10,000 turned into about 30,000 altogether, including hotels and airfare and all of that. Every penny well worth it, because fast forward 3 years now, I'm driving down. Now, by the way, during those 3 years, I'd started singing karaoke in the local bars around where I was living. I'm pretty good.
That's how you made the money to pay for the 30,000?
No. That would have been nice, though. It would have been great if people paid me to sing. No, I sang for applause and drinks sometimes. But it's 2 a.m. now, and I'm coming home from one of these bars. I had the most spectacular evening, singing, hanging out with friends. It was just the most wonderful evening. And I'm thinking about my day and how everything had just worked out right. In the morning, there was this thing that had to happen, and it just worked out perfectly, even though it didn't work out the way I planned it. It worked out perfectly. And then in the afternoon, there was something else that it worked out perfectly, even though I hadn't planned it at all. And I realized that I was living a life where everything was working out perfectly. And you may recall that I said about maybe 15 minutes ago in the life before that I had been living a life where everything sucked. So spirit tells me to pull the car off to the side of the road. Here it is, 2 a.m, right? Pull the car off to the side of the road. Why? Because spirit knows I'm about to cry. And spirit says to me, if you're living a life where everything is perfect, you go teach others how to do it. Because look how far I had come. And I said, yes, I would. And it's a good thing I pulled the car off to the side of the road, okay? But here I am. This is what I do now. It's a simple process. It's written down. It's a course that I developed.
Hold on a second before we go there, just for the time frame. Before we go there, how long ago is it that you finished those classes?
Let's see.
Roughly.
I'm gonna say about 2016 or so, or 17.
Okay, so let's say 3-4 years ago, you finished the classes, and then came the inspiration that you now should go out and offer what you experienced to others to improve their life.
Yeah, actually, I was probably still taking workshops when that happened, actually.
Okay.
Probably still a couple more workshops I was still taking.
All right, good. So the workshops you're giving them on the one-to-one, you're giving them in a class with several people online. How do you give your workshops?
Well, the best thing for an individual, somebody out there listening right now and looking at their life, and they want their life to suck no more, right? Because my life, I realize the lighting keeps changing, and that's because I keep moving. But there's somebody out there who wants their life to suck no more, and that's doable. All right. So
well, I
in
think
that
there's more than 1 or 2 people who
yes,
want to change their life. Okay.
I would hope so. So in that modality, in that method there, I would be working with them either one-on-one or in a small group, maximum of 5 people in a group. Okay, that's what I work with. There's a discount for couples also. By the way, the program just totally transforms marriages. So yeah, okay. We work together one-on-one or in small groups. Now I also
just a second. My wife said we should take the course with you.
Fine, absolutely. Yeah, let's do that. We could just to protect your privacy, I won't take your credit card number over the call right now, but we can do that afterwards. Actually, there's a testimonial on my website, which is ideserveaperfectlife.com. Sean and Renee. And you can hear about what happened with their marriage, because their marriage is just amazing now. It was great before. It's amazing now.
So you do one-on-one, you do small groups up to 5 maximum, you do couples, you do them in a personal meeting, or you go as well online?
Actually, the sessions are conducted on Zoom over the internet. And I was doing that long before COVID. That's beneficial to the learning process, because this way the student is in their comfort zone. They're in a comfortable place.
All right. So what can people expect?
Go ahead, let me just
mention
that I also give presentations. I also speak to large groups. So if you're an event planner out there, listening to this, I'm available for that as well. Go ahead.
So you wrote this book, and I should put it in here, the frame. The book is called Your Life Sucks No More. That's the cover of the book I'm blending in here for the audience. And where can people buy this book?
The book is available on Amazon. I'll tell you what, before I talk more about where to buy the book, I just feel led to talk about the cover and the picture.
Okay.
And I want to mention that picture was hand painted by a friend of mine, and then photographed and then scaled down. So and it was hand painted in ink. So it's just for me, it's an amazing picture, isn't it? Yeah. So, and we could talk about the meaning of it if you'd like to. Just real quick, on Amazon.
Up to you.
Okay. On Amazon, the book's available in soft cover. It's available as an ebook for 99 cents. So if somebody wants to learn these principles and concepts and have their life change, get the ebook, okay, if you know that's the method you'd like to go. And then we also have it available in Audible. I don't recall what the pricing was for that. Do you want to talk about the picture real quick?
Of course.
Can you put it back up?
Of course.
Okay, so first of all, the I is energy, conscious awareness. In quantum physics tells us that everything in the universe is energy. And actually, metaphysics then takes it to say that everything in the universe is conscious aware energy. So that's what the I is. And the I is actually projecting you or me, you know, you, the person. You're actually a projection of that energy. And so there you are in the beam, if you will, the yellow beam of that energy, being projected and manifested on top of the world there, or in the world. And when life is lived from that perspective, that you are all of those, the energy and the projection, then life becomes awesome. It sucks no more.
Okay, the anti-suck picture.
Yes.
Very good. Now, I know from various conversations we had in emails I read from you, your theory, your philosophy, more than a theory, is based on the idea that for many of us, their life sucks because of the way they were educated, treated, conditioned by parents, by school, by grandparents. Is that the basic of the philosophy, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Take a look at any newborn. And as a newborn baby, there is no fear and there is no emotional pain as a newborn baby. And then we learn these traumas. We learn pain. We learn fear. We learn rules and regulations that are conflicting, especially conflicting with our own desires.
May I interject there? I basically agree with you, and I speak about these things as well. But when a baby is born, it may have already been conditioned while the mother was pregnant. Physically,
there's truth to that. Yes, that is possible as well.
Physically or mentally. I have in my immediate surrounding clear evidence of this, and I experience it in life, watching and observing other people. So, unfortunately, many women who are pregnant don't have an optimal, nice, loving relationship with a husband, getting often in conflict in their sex life while they're pregnant with their husband's interest, and are mentally under pressure, physically under pressure. So, unfortunately, a lot of women running through their time of pregnancy do not have the optimal loving relationship, which of course is passed over to the unborn child at an early stage. So when children are born, very often they are already conditioned in one way or the other. By the way, my youngest grandson was born in the bathtub in my house, and none of my grandchildren have been vaccinated. None of my children have been vaccinated. So we try to keep away a lot of burdens which children grow up with. When nowadays young-born children are vaccinated, it drives me absolutely nuts to watch that and to know about that. So, but let's say if a child is born under optimal circumstances, yes, the child is open to discover the world and hug every bear and every tiger comes along his way. He has no fear. He has no fear for cars being overrun because everything is nice and beautiful.
That's right. When a baby is born, even so first of all, it all has to do with energy. And the damage, if you will, the conditioning that you're talking about occurs in the physical world. We could say, oh, the baby hears it, which is true. Hearing is developed very early on in pregnancy, and the baby can hear in utero. So
and feel emotions.
And feel. Yes, absolutely. Well, that's back to energy, actually. When you get to the point of feeling emotions, we are talking energy now.
Of course, yeah. Frequencies.
Frequencies. It's all about frequencies. So, like I say, the damage is caused by frequencies, by energy. And that damage is over time. So the longer the time, the more the damage. Okay, the more the problem, the more the barriers, the more the fear. So even for a baby in utero, that's 9 months. If I am working with somebody now, by the way,
you say 9, but it's 10. But it's 10 in fact. But we usually say 9. Okay.
Okay, 10, fine. The point is, the next thing we haven't talked about yet at all, and we could some other time, or maybe if we have time today, is the fact that the first 7 years of a child's life, their brain is in theta brainwave state, which means that they are a sponge. They literally soak things up. So there's 7 years where if the environment, so pre-birth, we had an environment that was not conducive to a happy, healthy child, right? And now we're talking about the first 7 years not being conducive. Even that can be reversed in a very short amount of time, like in weeks or days. That could be reversed. Okay. It's when I work with somebody who's in their 60s or 70s, and we're talking about 60 years of a life that sucked for them, that's where it gets a little more complicated.
Of course, it adds up over time. I usually say in my workshops, if somebody has strong characteristics, they develop with age stronger. If somebody has what I call inner wounds, over time they become stronger. So deficits become stronger over time, and strong points you have in your personality become stronger as well. So that's why we end up with a lot of cases with odd elderly people who are extremely unbalanced and frustrated about life, because life just seemed to be out of their hands.
Yeah, I mean, their life for that long has been unpleasant.
Sucked.
Yeah.
And according to
now,
your
mind
book,
we can still reverse that as well for them.
I understand. Well, that's the basic of your work. That's the basis of your work, right? You take people who become your clients, your patients, whatever you call them, and you dive into their lives and to help them to confront, to see what went wrong, and to compensate and to try to get it off their back.
Actually, it's simpler than that, because that actually sounds a bit like therapy. What I do is we actually go underneath all the experiences to the beliefs. And when we change the beliefs, and actually, we go to very core beliefs of who you are as a human being, and we change them.
Cool.
And when we change them, everything else that sucked begins to unravel.
Good. Yeah, core beliefs manifestate themselves in us and make us do things which we don't want to do, and makes us believe things which are going south, but not going north. Right? It's you could call it. I call it usually conditioning. Okay, we are conditioned, and then at the end of the day, we contribute to condition ourselves more. We are in a kind of down spiral, and kind of a downturn where it's hard to get out of it.
Yes. And by the way, one thing we could touch on there is it is hard to get out of it. And if there's somebody out there who's looking at their life and they're not happy with the way their life's going right now, please realize, one, it's not your fault. Okay? Your conditioning, your programming, and that's what it is. It's programming of the mind, was set into place before you were 7 years old. Okay? So it's not your fault. You couldn't have prevented it back then. And the second thing is it can be reversed. And gosh, I had a third thing that just escaped my mind here. I don't know. It'll come to me in a few moments.
Well, we have another 120 minutes left. It's okay.
Oh, do we? Okay.
So go back again to the first point. Maybe you get to the second, third. Go back. The first one is?
Well, just the first point is that it's not your fault. So, I just remembered the third point. Okay, that Albert Einstein. Let's cover the third point before I forget it again. Albert Einstein said, and we talked about this separately offline, but Albert Einstein had said you cannot solve a problem with the same mind that created it. So here you are in a life that you're not happy with. This is the life you've created, and you want to change it. So the way to change it is it can't be done on your own, because you cannot change it with the same mind. You need to talk. You want to talk with other people. You want to meet with other people, get new ideas.
New point of views. You have to change your point of views.
Precisely. It's perspectives, right? It's new perspectives. And it's with those points of view or perspectives that your life will change. And so
I call it in my book to change your mindset.
Yes.
Okay, your mind is set. Okay, that says it all. It's set. Okay, it's not a question. It's not bouncing. It's set. And to change your mindset is maybe the most difficult thing in life.
No, all it takes is a decision.
Yeah. Okay. Not with your philosophy. Okay, I understand that. But people who don't have your guidance, it's the most difficult thing.
Yeah, that's why I'm here, to help
Good.
them do that.
This is why I wanted you to be on the show, that there's hope, that you are there for people who feel lost, who feel their life sucks, that there is a way, a perspective. And you underlined something very particular before, that you said you don't have typical psychiatric approaches to this.
Right. Well, many people go into therapy for many, many, many years. And I ask the question, why? Why? Anything you'd like to change in your life, we can get that rolling in about 6 weeks.
Oh,
in fact,
6 weeks?
my students tell me that the thing that they want, because before we get started, we talk about what they want to change in their life. And most of my students tell me around week 3 to 4 into the program, that they're manifesting the thing they wanted. So don't have to be in therapy for years and years and years and years and years.
No, sure not. You know, there's a philosophy which I teach. I talk about Chinese medicine, right? And there is a philosophy, if you have the right approach, the right technique, the right protocol, you have to see an improvement, if not a complete change, within 3 months.
Okay.
So if somebody is in a medical treatment and it doesn't go away within 3 months, or at least you see a drastic improve, you have the wrong protocol. You have the wrong approach.
Yeah, I hear you. One of the things that I had been told way back when, because I was a consumer of holistic healthcare, I still am. I go to holistic healthcare practitioners rather than MDs, and I've been doing that for over 20 years now. And one of the things I had been told way back in the beginning is allow 1 month for every year you've had the problem. And I think that rule holds true for emotional issues as well. Allow 1 month for every year you've had the problem. But
in many cases that would be 20, 30, 40 months.
For a problem if we're talking about somebody who's 60 or 70 years old, that we're talking about deep-seated problems that go way back to childhood, allow a year to get through the whole thing. I mean, the relief will come, the changes will come very early on, and then it'll complete.
I think it goes gradually. I mean, at the beginning, there will certain things fall off, and others, very fine ones, may take a bit longer. But yeah, you should see a breakthrough in a reasonable. And you talked before, like typical 3 months to see the turnaround.
Yeah.
So when people now would like to contact you, what do they have to say? What number? What's your website?
Well, the easiest thing is to come to my website, which is because it's you, so you're saying it in first person now, all right? In fact, say it with me. I deserve a perfect life. Say it again. I deserve a perfect life. So I deserveaperfectlife.com. And if you go to the website, you'll find my phone number. You'll find my email. You can email me at paul@ideserveaperfectlife.com. At the website, you can, if you go to products and services, and then actually, I think on the home page, you can just click on Talk to Paul. That's what it is. Click on Talk to Paul and set up a time to talk with me. What else? You can subscribe to some gifts that I have there for you.
And you give a free consultation at the beginning or an opening conversation?
Well, that Talk to Paul is a no-cost session with me. So, yeah, there's no cost to you to talk with me for, I think that's a 30-minute session there.
Now, from all the cases you have handled so far, what percentage of those cases would you say are manifested at early childhood versus which came in later life, if at all?
I would really say that 100% of them began as childhood, with additional issues piled on top.
Of course, yeah.
And what's really great, the question I thought you were going to ask, for every person who has completed the program and done the homework, has done the work, it's an essential component. There's homework every day. Every person who has done the homework has had the transformation they were looking for.
So
100%.
I hear now that you say you give your sessions, but at the end of the sessions, I understand you give them homework till the next session, and the sessions are usually weekly.
Yes, it's a figure about a 60 to 90-minute session once a week. And then there's roughly 15 minutes or less of homework every day until the next session.
So the people have, so to speak, a list of things to do, to confront, to handle, to look into, to get engaged with till the next session.
Yes, there's an exercise to do that's actually where the transformation occurs, is in those exercises.
Well, I guess so, because the person at the end of the day has to be on its own, by himself, away from you, to confront and to handle what needs to be done. And then, of course, to gain from these steps, to see, well, it works, I can do this. At the end of the day, they have to do it themselves, like everything else in life.
True, and the reason everything is that way is the way we learn. We learn two ways. First, we learn intellectually, and intellectual learning doesn't amount to a hill of beans. It does not change your life ever. What changes one's life is an experience. Right? If you fall off a ladder when you're 3 years old, you're probably going to be afraid of ladders for the rest of your life, unless something happens to change that. Okay? An experience. So the way I teach is I teach you a knowledge, and then I give you exercises to create an experience. And through those experiences, your life changes.
Okay, cool. Makes sense. Well, when you were quoting Albert Einstein before, I have here a quote: "Education is not the learning of the facts, but the training of the mind to think."
Yep.
You see, in the school and usually in our home with our parents, we are trained factual knowledge. We are trained, we are asked, what is the capital of the Inner Mongolia? And the capital is Ulaanbaatar. And then when you say this, you get an A in school, right? But what do you do with this information that Ulaanbaatar is the capital of the Inner Mongolia? What do you do with this information? I have never used trigonometry in my entire life, okay? And they bombarded me in school and gave me a hard time in school, right? In fact, they pissed me off in school. I was bad at school. I left school with high school. I never went to college or university. Thanks God. Thanks God I never did. Because like this, I don't have any obligation to any faculty, So in my workshops, I talk about children, and I say, among others, and not many people like me to say that, but I say it anyway, Unfortunately, in many cases, the parents are the worst friends you can have. I see parents doing things to their children which you would not accept from a friend, but parents do it. And usually it's invalidation of the person, of the child's personality, and breaking the backbones, okay? So
Well,
I think that your work is very essential, and it corresponds a lot with my findings so far, what I have heard, what I've seen. And I must say for the audience that there's no question, I do not know your business as such, and I have no financial interest in your business, you know. And I don't
Except you
make money on your books or whatever. I don't make money at all on the show. But I felt like what you have to offer, the findings, may be very, very helpful for a lot of people to improve their life, that it doesn't suck anymore.
Exactly.
So before we fade out, do you have any few last thoughts which we have not covered yet? It does not mean that at a later stage you cannot come back and we talk about other things, but for this today's theme, is there something else you would like to add before we call it a day?
Yeah, how much time have we got left? I'm not clear on.
4 minutes.
4 minutes. Okay, cool. Yeah, so what you talked about there a moment ago about the parents and the children and like that, I had not mentioned this the last time you and I spoke about this actual point, but what just popped into my head was the Bible verse. There's a Bible verse, and I can't remember where it is in the Bible. It's Old Testament. Something about the sins of the father will be visited to the fourth generation. Okay? And really what that's talking about is generational things being passed on from generation to generation.
Mm-hmm.
And so what you are talking about is emotional pain, emotional trauma being passed from one generation to the next generation.
Absolutely. This is why the world doesn't improve. One reason the world doesn't improve.
Well,
not really.
Or at least hasn't improved faster. Okay, because it has improved. All right, we're not plowing fields with right.
In regards to what?
How about the treatment of humanity?
Do we have less suicide? Do we have less wars? Less children die of hunger? Less children die of poor water or no water? What are the essential changes?
I don't know. Would you say that we have less today than, say, 300 years ago or 1,000 years ago?
Less what?
Of everything you just listed.
We have more.
Really? Than 1,000 years ago?
More suicide?
The average age 1,000 years ago was what, 40?
More? No. This is a lie. Let's not go there. Okay, let's not go there. How do we know? First of all, most history books are fake. Okay. We went to the Iraq War because of weapons of mass destruction. Excuse me. And some Arabs put down 9/11, the tower. Excuse me. And Lee Harvey Oswald killed Kennedy. Excuse me. How do we know that 1,000 years ago people had a higher average level, life level than today? We had some diseases which were catastrophe, but if the people didn't catch that disease, they became older than we are now today. But for me, it's very essential. Well, let's not go there. It's too far off your subject. But to finish that from my side.
Well, actually, wait. The point is this. I believe that we are moving towards, very rapidly, enlightenment. Okay? That back in the 1960s, when I was in kindergarten and I sang "This is the Dawning of the Age of Aquarius" at my kindergarten graduation, that was foretelling today. Okay.
Do me a favor. Let's keep that subject for another show.
Okay, cool.
Because we're getting too far off the track here. I finish from my side with one sentence. If we're so much better, which I talk about in my other shows, about electromagnetic radiation, why does every third person at the moment die of cancer if we're so much better? All right, let's leave it there and let's pick it up on another show, which we're going to do, I'm sure. Okay? Because it goes in a different phase of this world. And we look, it's very simple. We both believe in the good of people. This is why we both do what we do. We don't do it as a job, making money. We do it, and I say, you do it and I do it as a calling.
Mm-hmm.
We have a calling to do what we do, and this is why we do it. We never did it for money. We never started it for money because we felt it had to be done. Like in your case, you got the message, you have to do it. Same like me. So we do these things because we're still working on the hopes that we can improve the condition on this planet for everybody.
Amen.
And with this, let's call it amen, and let's call it a night. I appreciate you coming up to my show. Wonderful to have you with me. And I'm looking forward to the next show where we talk about some other or nearby subjects or things we have not covered today, okay?
Sounds good.
Good night, my friend. Thank you very much. Here's his book, Your Life Sucks No More, Paul Levin. Thank you, Paul. All right, ladies and gentlemen. That was interesting. I think that was very interesting. Yes, at the end, we got a bit into another direction, and I didn't want to go too deep into that because it was too much distracting from the basic theme of our show and what Paul is all about and his message. I hope you liked it, and I hope you tune in again every Monday night, 6 to 7 on 10 Talk Radio, AM 1340. And you can listen to all my shows as a podcast on my website, improveyourlife.us, is a podcast show, and there is YouTube show, video show. So you can listen to this show at a later stage as a podcast or watch it as a video on my website, improveyourlife.us. And you see it on the calendar the next weeks, every Monday, which theme I have called to present to you. Okay? So until next time, my name is Norbert Heuser. The show is Improve Your Life. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.